All right. Well, welcome to the attendees. We're just giving a few minutes now here to allow everyone to be able to successfully log in. We just opened up. We'll be starting very shortly. All right. Are you guys able to hear me? I just want to double check I'm getting in there. Okay. We're going to go ahead and start. And first of all, I want to welcome everyone to Judicial Forum. My topic relates to the treasurer for the. You can't hear me? Hold on 2 seconds. Hold on 1 second. I'm just going to log in through my phone to make this a lot easier.
We can hear you perfectly now, Javi.
Can you hear me now perfectly?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have my phone just in case.
Okay.
And I came to my office for that specific purpose. All right. All right, can everyone hear me? Hello? Everyone can hear me now? Perfect.
But with a very big echo. Say something again.
No, I had my phone is here, and so I had that I'm going to have that one ready as backup.
All
So
right,
my name
you're
is
good to
Javier
go.
Listo. Javier Soto. I'm the current treasurer for the Cuban American Bar Association. I'm here, happy to host. This will be my third judicial forum I've done now, and welcome for CABA is. Let me find my sheet. And so initially, I want to introduce our committee. Our committee is joined with Miriam Ramos. She's here. She's been the prior chair, and she is currently a vice president of the Cuban American Bar Association. Also, my fellow committee member, Daniel Mendez, one of the board of directors for CABA. Thank you both for being on our committee. We're also hosted with Giselle Gutierrez, who are our vice president of CABA, and also is a member of our committee. We have assisting us is Dax Bello. He's going to be doing the timing and the screen switching. He's been practicing a lot, so please, if you have any problems, direct them to him because he'll be responsible for any of those issues, not me or CABA. We absolve ourselves of any liability. It's all him. So thank you. I'd like to initially recognize our sponsor, as you guys will see in one of the logos below. Mendez and Mendez Law Firm has been gracious enough to host or to sponsor the Judicial Forum. And together with this is we were able to get these beautiful Emma rocks, who is another support. I don't know if you guys know Emma Denaro, Judge Don Denaro's daughter. She makes these beautiful rocks. She's created 10 of them for CABA, specifically for the Judicial Luncheon. And what we will be doing throughout the event is Giselle Gutierrez will be selecting at certain points through the event, certain attendees that are going to be awarded a beautiful rock that we'll be sending over to them. It's going to have the CABA logo. So thank you guys for attending. And also please go to Emma Rocks. It's at www.emmaniarocks.com and get your own rock. She's a great supporter. Don Denaro's obviously, Judge Denaro is a great supporter of CABA as well, and we really appreciate Emma for doing those for us. She's a wonderful artist. And so Dex, let's switch over now. And Francis.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Francis De La Guardia, president of the Cuban American Bar Association. I'd like to welcome you to CABA's Judicial Forum 2020. This year, we're bringing you our traditional in-person annual judicial lunch in a webinar format due to the pandemic and to promote social distancing and keep everyone safe. I'm sure it will prove to be as successful and informative as all our prior judicial forums. I'd like to extend my welcome and thank you to the judicial candidates for participating in today's forum. I know you are busy and we truly appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Additionally, thank you to all the members of the judiciary that have joined us today, as well as all our other attendees. I hope you enjoy the program. I'd like to also recognize and thank CABA's Judicial Committee for putting together what will be an excellent program today. So specific thank you to the committee chair and CABA treasurer, Javier Soto, Vice President Miriam Ramos, and co-chair of the committee, Board of Director Daniel Mendez and his firm, Mendez and Mendez Law Offices, for sponsoring the program. The committee has worked tremendously hard to bring this valuable programming to our members, and we thank them for their hard work. I'd also like to take a brief moment to recognize our other CABA Board of Directors and thank them for their service during a very challenging year. We have our President-elect Dax Bello, past President Maria Garcia. We have Vice President Giselle Gutierrez, Chair of our Committee Outreach and Mentoring Committee. Our Secretary, Nori Acosta Lopez, Chair of our Mental Health Committee. Director Candice Balmori, Chair of our Online Programming and CABA on Cuba Committee. Director Amanda Fernandez, Chair of our CLE Programming. Director Augusto Pereira, Co-Chair of our CLE Committee. And Director Heidi Serra, Co-Chair of our Online Programming and Co-Chair of our Legislative Committee. We also have Director Diana Ortega, editor of our CABA Briefs, which was pushed out last week to all of our members. Our Director Daniel Buigues, co-editors of CABA Briefs, and Director Michael Pinheiro of our Rapid Response Team. I'd also like to take a moment to thank our Director of Operations, Carla Pascual, for all the help and work that she's done this whole year. And with that, I will turn it over to Javi to explain the rules to the candidates and start our program. Thank you for joining us.
while Javi is able to get his technology working, I'll just step in. So basically we're going to allow, and I will walk you through, I'll call each of your names 60 seconds for an introduction. And then we're gonna walk you through a list of questions. We didn't want to go group by group like we normally do at the luncheon because we felt that everyone else would feel like they were just sitting there doing nothing for a long period of time. So instead we're going to be calling randomly on the judges and asking questions. The screen will flash in yellow to note when there's 15 minutes remaining in your 90 seconds to answer each question. And then at the end, after we're done with all of the questions, we'll have 45 seconds for closing statement. The only candidate that was not able to attend today was candidate Rosie Aponte. She explained to us that she could not attend due to a previously scheduled commitment that she had and that she was unable to move. So with that, we'll start with the introductions. I'm first going to call on Judge Tunis. Judge Tunis, can you give us your 60-second introductory statement, please?
Of course. Thank you so much for having me and for including me. I've been on the bench nearly 20 years. I was originally appointed by Governor Jeb Bush. I went through the vetting process that all of you know about through the Judicial Nomination Commission. And I was appointed to county court. After approximately 4.5 years, I applied for circuit court. I was nominated and again appointed by Governor Bush to the circuit bench. During my time on the bench, I've tried approximately 150 jury trials. I have been in the juvenile division, the criminal division, domestic violence. I did civil injunction and family court. And I've also been involved in judicial education for approximately 17 years throughout the state of Florida. So it's an honor to hold this position, and it's likewise an honor to be part of this panel here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judge Tunis.
My pleasure.
With that, Marcia Giordano Hansen, could you please give us your introduction?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much, CABA, for hosting this wonderful forum and giving us the opportunity. My name is Marcia Giordano Hansen. I'm number 316 on the ballot. For the past 20 years, I have been in front of the bench as a litigator, civil, criminal court. I have a very diversified experience. I worked as a public defender. Then I worked at 2 national firms, Wickersmith and Fowler White, doing civil work. And then I've owned and operated my firm for the past 10 years, doing criminal and civil work. I graduated from Barnard College with honors and Nova Law School in 2 years. I moved to Miami 20 years ago. I live here with my family, Bryant, and our 2 children. And I chose Miami to be my home because of its diverse nature. My mother is Chilean and my father's Italian American. So I grew up in a very culturally diverse home, and Miami felt like it was the place for me to be. I love it. I cherish it. It's a place where my children are going to grow up, and I hope to serve it as a judge one day.
Thank you very much. Judge Ruiz, would you like to give us your introduction?
Yes, thank you so much. My name is Mabel Ruiz. I've been a judge for almost 6 years. I came from Cuba when I was 5 years old in 1966 in the Freedom Flights. I come from very humble beginnings. My mother has a 3rd grade education. My father is 6th grade education, but we've lived the American dream, and I'm very proud of what we've accomplished through hard work and dedication. As a matter of fact, yesterday the Miami Herald endorsed me and said that I was hardworking and efficient. I was an assistant public defender for almost 7 years. Then I continued working for I suppose the underdog as an assistant regional counsel. And in my private practice, I also had represented individuals that really were on payment plans. So I have 19 years experience. I've tried 29 civil jury trial cases, never reversed. I've tried probably 100 dependency and TPR cases, never reversed, and about 100 juvenile delinquency cases. And I'm currently on the civil bench. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Ruiz. On group 65, we're turning our attention to Denise Martinez-Scanziani. Denise, can you hear me and provide us with your introduction?
Hi. Oh, can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. First, apologies for the informal gear. I am at an early voting location, so I thank you so much for doing this. My name is Denise Martinez-Scanziani. I am a lifelong resident of Miami-Dade County. I have been an attorney at the trial and appellate level now for over 20 years. I am a board certified marital and family law attorney, which is, I am actually one of only 33 attorneys with that designation in the county. After graduating from the University of Florida with honors, my first job out of law school was a job that set me on my path of service, which was as a staff attorney for legal aid in the Senior Citizen Law Project. I have continued to serve in many capacities, mostly focusing on the issue of families and children. I run my own firm successfully. I have done over 50 appeals argued before the district courts of Florida. I have participated in over 700 evidentiary and bench trials as a family lawyer. And now I'm seeking to be elected to circuit court judge in Miami-Dade County. And I thank you for the opportunity to answer any of the questions you have.
Thank you. With that, we'll turn to Judge Rabul. Judge Rabul, will you give us your introduction?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tom Rabul. I've been on the bench since the governor appointed me in 2011. I was elected unopposed in 2014. During that time, I've served in the criminal division, in the civil division, and in the appellate division. In addition to my judicial duties, Chief Judge Soto appointed me as an associate administrative judge in both the criminal and civil divisions. And she also appointed me as co-chair of the 11th Judicial Circuit Professionalism Committee, along with Andrea Wolfson and Paul Lipton. For my work on that professionalism committee, I was honored to receive one of the honors of my career so far is the Mario Goderich Favor Award from the Cuban American Bar Association. And I'm also the proud father of my 2 teenage daughters who are out campaigning with me. And I look forward to having a conversation with you all. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Judge. I'll now turn my attention to group 57. Carmen Cabarga, can you hear me, and can you give us your introduction?
Yes. Thank you. You can hear me?
Yeah.
We can.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you to Javi Soto. I have been a practicing attorney in Miami-Dade County for about 21 years now. I worked in insurance defense and private sector for about 4 years. I worked in probate for about 3, representing seniors, victims of abuse. I then went on and was a prosecutor with the Department of Children and Families. I worked for the City of Miami Community Redevelopment Agency for about 3 years, negotiating franchise agreements and different contracts and RFPs. And currently I am a defense attorney for indigent parents in the Office of Criminal Conflict and Civil Regional Counsel. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cabarga. Mr. Breen, turning my attention to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Rod Vereen. I am number 313 on the ballot. I'm a graduate of Florida State University undergrad, Southern University Law Center in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where I served on both the Law Review and the Moot Court Board. After graduation, I returned to Tallahassee, where I worked as an adjunct professor at both Florida State University School of Criminology and Florida A&M University School of Criminal Justice, while at the same time working at the State Attorney's Office as a prosecutor in the misdemeanor division. In 1992, I went to Pensacola, Florida, where I became the first African-American assistant federal public defender for the Northern District of Florida. I've been practicing law now for 30 years. I've handled over 2,000 state and federal cases. I've tried over 200 criminal cases in both state and federal court. I'm licensed to practice before the United States Supreme Court, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, the Northern District of Florida Federal Court, the Southern District of Florida Federal Court, the Middle District of Florida, and the Western District of Michigan, as well as the Florida Bar. I've served as the past president of the Wilkie D. Ferguson Junior Bar Association, and I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Breen. Now going on to group 55. Ms. Adebayo, could you provide us with your opening statement, please?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, CABA, for having us. My name is Olanike Adebayo, running for Circuit Court Judge, Group 55, punch number 310. I'm originally from Chicago. I came to Miami to attend the University of Miami School of Law. I interned at the State Attorney's Office in 1996. I joined the office in 1997 and was there until 2005, rose to tried cases from misdemeanors to felonies, rose to the supervisor position of chief of litigation of the juvenile division, supervised over 80 attorneys to make sure they had the tools they needed to head over to the felony division. Then left to get some civil practice at the Miami-Dade Police Department. I served as a police legal advisor for over 5 years. Back to the state attorney's office to join the community outreach division to attend the community meetings that Rundle could not attend. And now I'm a defense attorney. I have my own practice, and I also work for the Office of Criminal Regional Conflict, where I defend parents who are losing rights to their children. So over 20 years of practice, 50 jury trials, numerous bench trials, now ready to serve the public from the bench. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikkei. Mr. Perkins, would you provide us with your opening?
Hello, yes, thank you. Hi, thank you so much for organizing today. You did a great job. My name is Joe Perkins. Yo no soy cubano, pero tengo 17 años casado con una mujer hispana. Y aprendí español porque sabía que si iba a conquistarle a su corazón, tenía que poder comunicar con su madre, que no habla inglés. I'm a complex commercial litigator, and my primarily federal cases generally involve 7 to 8 figure disputes and occasionally 9-figure disputes. I speak Spanish as a second language, Japanese as a third language, and the government of Japan is a client of mine. I'm proudly endorsed by our president-elect Dax Bello, past presidents Roland Sanchez Medina, Michael Diaz Jr., all 3 police organizations that endorse, the chair of the Black Affairs Advisory Board, and many others. But I would like to share with you the reason why I'm running for circuit judge. I've had the good fortune of speaking with many attorneys across practice areas during and before my campaign. I am convinced that there is a consensus within our community that regarding what we need in our judiciary, and competence and intelligence are just the baseline. We need more judges who are going to roll up their sleeves and get to work, and I will bring these qualities with me to the judiciary. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Now on to group 24, Judge Bandon.
Hi. Thank you, CABA, and everybody involved in setting this up, and everyone who's listening to us speak today. First, I want to apologize. I keep having phone placement issues, so if I'm moving around, it's because of that. My name is Christine Bandon, and I'm running to keep my seat as a county court judge, punch 322. I was born and raised in Miami. I'm a mom. I was a successful litigator for 12 years and a partner at Sheston Bowen before I was appointed to the bench by the governor in 2018. I currently preside in the Domestic Violence Division, and I love my job, and I love serving the people of my community where I was born and raised. And more than that, I'm good at my job. I am patient. I treat everybody equally. I never forget that I was on the other side of the bench. And I keenly am aware of the fact that I work for the people that come before me. And I hope that the voters have faith in me, just like a lot of organizations have faith in me and have endorsed me, including the Herald as of yesterday morning, that I will continue to serve with honor, dedication, and impartiality. Christine Banding, 322.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Spector, would you give us your introduction?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Sean Spector. I'm running for County Court Judge in Group 24. Thank you, CABA, very much for having all of us and hosting this forum. A little about me. I did my undergrad at the University of Delaware, where I got my degree in biological sciences, and then came down to Miami to attend law school at UM. While I was there, I fell in love with the city and decided to make it my permanent home. My first job out of school was at a labor and employment firm representing plaintiff employees against their employers for wage and hour and discrimination claims. From there, I moved on to a mid-sized law firm where I specialized in commercial litigation for corporate clients. And after that, I was offered a position in-house at a financing company where I had the opportunity to advise on matters of compliance and served as lead counsel for all local litigation in South Florida. 2017, I opened my own firm, and that's where I currently serve now as outside general counsel for small businesses in Miami and Broward, and also represent plaintiffs and defendants at various stages of commercial litigation. Again, Sean Spector, I'm number 323 on the ballot. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now on to our last group, group number 9, Judge Mansfield.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to go last for a change because we've always gone first. But my name is Joseph Mansfield. I am currently a sitting county court judge. I was appointed by Governor Rick Scott in August of 2017. Before that, I was born and raised in Ohio. I went to school in Cleveland, Ohio. And I always say I transplanted to Miami, or I'm a Miami transplant, because I adopted this as my home back in 2000 when I moved here to join the state attorney's office. And I see some familiar faces that used to walk the halls with me there. So I spent 16 years at the state attorney's office. I tried many cases. I was very trial active as a prosecutor. I always say I wasn't the best prosecutor, but I was very trial active, and I've taken that same quality to the bench. I have probably one of the most trial active courtrooms in county court. I've presided over more criminal cases than most all the other county courtrooms added together. I'm very proud of that because I believe in what we do. I believe in our system of justice, and I believe that we're here to work and to get things accomplished. So I appreciate your support, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. And our last candidate, Mr. Mirabal.
Thank you. Last but not least, I'm Mike Mirabal. I wanted to thank everybody, thank CABA for this opportunity. Esteemed colleagues and guests, it's an honor to be here today in front of you guys. I'm Mike Mirabal, like I said. I was born in Miami. I was raised in Miami, and I'm a Cuban-American product of Cuban exiles. My parents left Cuba in 1959. My mother was a political prisoner. My father was also a political prisoner. And they actually married here in Miami in 1968. So I was raised here. I love this community. I left many years ago to work in Spain. Came back here because my family was here, my community was here, my friends were here, and I really wanted to come back and build something wonderful in Miami. That's one of the reasons I actually ran for judge here in Miami. And one of the reasons I'm running for judge again is because I really believe I can make a difference in our community. I speak Spanish, English, and Portuguese, and I have 16 years of experience. My educational background is a little bit different than many other people and other candidates. Went to law school here in Barry and undergrad in St. Thomas, but then also went to law school again for a second time for another 5 years in Spain to become a Spanish lawyer. So I litigated quite a bit in Spain also, here a bit, but it was a wonderful experience. I came back to open up my law firm from Spain back into Miami and started doing a little bit of pro bono work, which then grew and grew and grew, and it really whetted my appetite for public service. I had done it before in the past, but I started doing a lot more, and actually CABA's the organization that opened the door for me to do that pro bono work and fall in love with it. Now we do quite a bit of domestic violence pro bono work. We do also guardian ad litem, mentee, mentor programs, and that's something I'm very proud of, the programs that we work in to help Miami-Dade County. So I'm Mike Mirabal, running for judge. I would really appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for your wonderful introductions. I'm going to attempt to talk to Javi again. Javi, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
We can. Fantastic. So with that, we're going to start our round robin questions, and Javi will start that out.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, all the candidates, for introducing yourselves. As we're going to move into the round robin, as we said it initially, is each of the candidates will have 90 seconds to answer their question, and we're going to keep all the judges involved throughout all the different rounds, so that way not one is just sitting around. So I'll start off with Judge Rabul. Why did you want to become a judge?
Well, that's a great question. So right out of law school, I clerked for 2 years at the 3rd District Court of Appeal for the late Joseph Nesbitt, who passed away. And that experience working with him and the kind of open-mindedness and demeanor that he had really got me thinking about it at that time. I mean, he sat me down day one. He came into my office instead of asking me to come into his office, and said that he didn't hire me to be a yes man, that he wanted to know what I thought. And if he disagreed with me, if the Florida Supreme Court reversed him, that I could feel free to call him years later and tell him that I told you so. So that was part of what informed my thinking. And then having been a lawyer, a practicing lawyer in the courts for about 20 years, you appear before some great judges to inspire you, and also appear before some not so great judges. And I always wanted to be the kind of judge that I wanted to appear in front of as a lawyer, and just do all the things that I would have hoped for when I was an attorney. And public service has always been something that's been important to me. I served on the City of Miami Civilian Investigative Panel for 8 years before I became a judge, which is civilian oversight of the police department. And I felt like this was the best way that I could serve my community, was as a member of the judiciary, and it's been an honor and a privilege to do so. Thanks.
Thank you, Judge Rabul. Next, we're going to be asking Judge Ruiz, which endorsement have you received that you are most proud of, and why?
You must have seen my video. The endorsement, I'm proud of all the endorsements. And yesterday I received the Miami Herald, as I mentioned. But an endorsement that is incredibly humbling to me is the endorsement of the League of Prosecutors. For 19 years, I was a defense attorney in the criminal courthouse, and I worked with countless attorneys. Many of them are on your board and have been very active in CABA. And I've represented thousands of men and women and children charged with crimes. And over 19 years to have cases with opposing counsel, and these are prosecutors, to work with them and negotiate cases and try cases against them. If you misrepresent something, Mr. Ley Soto, if you lie, or if you are shady with the truth, or you do something that is really below our professional standards, those are the people that are going to know it. So for me to receive the endorsement of the League of Prosecutors speaks to the professionalism of the attorneys that work in the criminal courthouse. And many of them go on to be judges, and I just could not be more proud of that. I think it speaks to the professionalism and the integrity of the attorneys in the criminal courthouse, and generally to attorneys all around.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. Next is the question is going to go to Mr. Mirabal. Is if you did not practice law, what would you do and why?
If I wasn't a lawyer, honestly, I'd probably be a professor. I've dabbled it. I've been a professor before, luckily in Key West and Florida Keys Community College. But I would probably be a professor, either a history professor or philosophy professor, but I would probably be some kind of a professor.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, Danny Mendez.
Good afternoon, everyone. This question is for Ms. Adebayo. First of all, go Canes. Second of all, if you are elected to the bench, what division is your strongest preference, and which division would be your lowest preference?
Really? I don't want to say my lowest preference, but my highest preference would be where I am now. I defend parents, as I stated earlier. So my highest preference would be juvenile dependency. It would be actually drug court, since that's the seat from Judge Jerry Beth Cohen, who's retiring, whose seat it is. Criminal, family, then I guess civil. So we're going to do it in that order. I'm not saying civil is my lowest preference, because I practice some civil litigation, but if given a choice, it would be dependency, juvenile, probably criminal, then family, then civil. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is for Judge Tunis. What is your judicial philosophy, and which current Supreme Court justice best reflects your judicial outlook?
My judicial philosophy is that it is the role of the court to follow the law and to apply it fairly to the parties in front of you. And likewise, treat those that come before you with dignity and respect, irrespective of race, gender, nationality, or sexual orientation. I believe it's the role of the court to stay in your lane, and in making calls during the course of trials, ruling on those calls, evidentiary, and just stay in your lane, and only in a sense, I don't want to say interfere, that's not the word that I mean, but I'm just having a moment here. The law tells us that the court should not step in to the trial process unless there is fundamental error that is taking place, or perhaps about to take place, unless you stop someone from saying something midstream or jumping into an opening or a closing argument. So I very much believe in that. And there's also interwoven in all of that is you have to have a sense of humility. And I think that that is where our experience just in life, with our families, with people with issues, with births and deaths and things that occur in our lives. They make us human beings, and I make every attempt to use that when addressing folks in the courtroom. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question is for Mr. Vereen. Besides virtual hearings, which a lot of them are taking place now, what other technology would you suggest implementing for court hearings or communicating with the parties?
Well, I've been in federal court before where we used Skype, and Skype was one of the methods we had when we were dealing with individual witnesses that were not allowed to come into the country. They had been expelled from the United States, and for matters of convenience, we were allowed to have them Skyped in. We made provisions for them to appear at embassies within the countries, and through that, we were able to get witnesses to appear in court. In fact, I have a client now that was deported, and we have a federal case that's pending. And he's not going to be allowed back into the United States, but yet he is the plaintiff in the case. And so we're going to have to try to either Skype him in or Zoom him in for purposes of depositions and for purposes of any federal hearings that we will have. So Skype would be the manner in which I think the courts can employ along with Zoom. So that's one of them. And so I expect now with the pandemic that there are going to be other telecommunication systems put up in place for we can conduct such hearings beyond Zoom and Skype.
Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to Miriam now.
Thanks, Daniel. Judge Mansfield, what is the biggest challenge you have faced as a judge? You're muted, Judge.
All right, let's see. The biggest challenge I faced as a judge, it's interesting. I spent 16 years as a prosecutor, so I spent 16 years essentially in these courtrooms advocating and probably fairly aggressively advocating because I felt passionate about the work I was doing and about representing victims of crime and about making sure defendants' rights were respected. And the whole thing, I took great pride in what I did. So the transition to the bench, it's a different role. I mean, now I have to make sure that the process is fair. I have to make sure that the law is applied. That's probably the thing I focus on the most, and the thing that keeps me up at night. When I lay in bed at night, there are two things. I always think to myself, did I get it right today? Did I apply the law correctly? I did my research. I think I got it right. There's no quick reference book. You do what you think is right. And the other thing as a judge is when we issue punishments, you lay in bed at night and you think, did I treat that person right? Was that a proper sentence? Was I fair? Those are the things that kind of dance around your brain at night when you go to sleep, because as a judge, you wear that with you. The decisions you make in these courtrooms, I've learned affect so many lives, not just the life that's standing before you, but the collateral lives that are affected. So what we do in these courtrooms, I'm constantly reminded of how important it is and how many people are affected by it. So I think grappling with that, with the breadth of that responsibility and making sure that I get it right, because I'm a perfectionist and I like to get things right, that's probably been the biggest hurdle for me.
Thank you, Judge. Judge Bandine, what are your thoughts on experimental jury trials in the time of COVID?
So we just had, I thought, was a pretty successful jury trial about 2 weeks ago. It gets a little difficult in the criminal sense because of the confrontation clause, but I think that for what we have and the position that we are in right now, we did a great job with that pilot program and the way that the jury was able to come in and the way it was impaneled and the way that the civil trial went through from the beginning to the verdict. I think that it was a good run, and I think that we're going to be able to continue to do that at least until we can open up the world again in the civil context.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Spector, why do you think you would be a good judge? And what do you consider your greatest strengths and your greatest weaknesses?
So I think I'd be a good judge because of my background and experience. I haven't pigeonholed myself into one area or one discipline. I've worked in several different areas of law, labor and employment, commercial litigation. I've been in-house counsel, outside counsel. I've represented plaintiffs and defendants. And I think, to be an effective judge and impartial, you really need a well-rounded perspective of the process as a whole, because obviously there's more than 20 sides to each argument. So you need to have that experience and that background to really come in with an open mind and try to see it from all different points of view. I have the work ethic that the job demands. It's a very, very difficult job, and it requires a lot of preparation. It requires a lot of dedication. As I said before, I've started my own firm back in 2017, and I've been successful, and it's often a 24-hour a day job. And I'm ready, and I really want to now shift that energy and that focus into serving the public, into serving the people in the county. I'd say my greatest strengths are that I'm not afraid to ask questions. I like to learn. I'm a quick study. Every different stage of my career has been, a learning experience, and there's been a learning curve. And I found that when I apply myself, I'm able to overcome those learning curves. My greatest weaknesses, I would say I try to get things, I like things perfect. So, sometimes I'll spend an inordinate amount of time, making sure something is exactly the way I want it and exactly the way I think it should be. So I think, that could be improved a little bit. I think that was all the questions.
Thank you. With that, I'll turn it to Javier.
Hi, Ms. Cabarga, do you believe that the current system for disciplining lawyers and judges is effective? And why or why not?
I'm sorry, Javi, can you repeat that?
Sure. Do you believe the current system for disciplining lawyers and judges is effective? Why or why not?
I do believe it's effective. You have them, come down with, the JQC comes down with their recommendations after reviewing everything, and then it's either going to be approved or not approved by the Supreme Court. After seeing for years the decisions that have been made, the ones that have been supported, the ones that they've turned around to them and said, we're not accepting this, take another shot at it. I think it's been fair and appropriate. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Ms. Martinez Scanziani. Have you ever faced a difficult ethical situation? Please describe that situation and tell us how you handled it.
So yes, as a family law practitioner, it's very emotional, it's very stressful, and for the parties in particular, so tensions are high. And sometimes the litigants in particular try to win at all costs, let's say. And there have been occasions, for example, when it comes to family law, specifically, if you know for a fact, as an attorney, if you know for a fact that your client is misleading or misrepresenting, you are required, according to the bounds of advocacy in family law, we have to withdraw and alert the court, which is kind of a little bit of a backwards kind of thinking when you're thinking of attorney-client privilege, but that's how it's been interpreted for us. So what I do is I educate my clients from the very beginning, allowing them and understand the process and be very informed, and letting them know that under no uncertain terms will I support or allow any type of misrepresentation. If we focus on the best interest of the children, which is what the priority should be when there's children involved, then everybody should be on the same page. There have been instances where I am required to withdraw, and that's the way that I handle it. It's not really exactly a difficult ethical situation. It's pretty black and white, but it is difficult when you're dealing with the emotions and all of the different dynamics that occur in family law.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez Scanziani. Next question is going to be for Ms. Giordano Hansen. How would you recommend parties move a case forward in this time of COVID?
Given the fact that we're unable to really meet in person, I actually believe that cases are moving forward more rapidly because we have these type of ways that we can communicate with each other via Zoom. Being that I have worked in the civil realm, it is very difficult to get even 4 lawyers together, given our busy schedules. But with Zoom, it's actually been a lot easier to get us together because we don't have to do it at your typical hours of the day. We can do anything from home or from our office. So I think it's actually, that's been one of the positives with the pandemic. I think our technology today has actually been positive. I do also think that we're able to communicate more easily with the judge. I practice also in criminal court, and I've been in criminal court for 20 years, and it was always very difficult to get in touch with the judge. I would have to set up a calendar and go there in a couple of weeks. Now I can actually email them, and they respond to both me and the prosecutor. So I believe just taking advantage of all of the technology we have to date that has been implemented so well by our court system and by us. I think we keep on using it, and we'll get through this.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Danny Mendez.
Thanks, Javi. And last but not least, this question is for Mr. Perkins. Which local judge do you admire most, either past or present, and why?
Samantha Ruiz Cohen. I had a very, very complex case in front of her that required an understanding of multiple different parts of the Uniform Commercial Code. And I was so impressed that she took the time to read and learn such an obscure area of law to eventually rule in a way that I believe that the law required her to rule. And she didn't always rule in my favor. That's one. Two, Judge Scola, who's now on the federal bench. One time he, on his own, included in a memorandum opinion a 2-page discussion of the source of the motion to strike, highlighting that it was a rule-based rule. Now, I think he was wrong, but I appreciate his focus on the rules and on things that aren't fun. Not a lot of people find the rules of civil procedure, the rules of evidence, to be something fun. I enjoy it, and I admire judges who learn the law and learn the rules before applying it.
Thank you very much. And that concludes round 1. I'm going to turn it over to Giselle Gutierrez with a special announcement.
I'm off mute. Good afternoon, everyone. So I will be calling 2 winners right now at random for our CABA Rocks. First, I'd like to announce the winner of Amanda Naldajev. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I'll go ahead and give you the email for Carla, and we can get in touch with her so we can get you the rock. And our second winner at random is Chiaka Ikwaba, and I hope I also pronounced that correctly. I'll be in touch with you as well with Carla's email. Thank you.
Thanks, Giselle. So with that, we will start round 2. And round 2 starts with Ms. Martinez-Scanziani. Ms. Martinez-Scanziani, a negative ad was sent around to many in the Miami-Dade County community. And excuse me one second, because I've lost track of where I am. A negative ad was sent around to many in the Miami-Dade County community about your opponent. What is your position on these types of negative ads in judicial races?
Well, my position is number one, I had nothing to do with that, to be very clear. I have run a very positive campaign based on my own qualifications and experiences. When I have been pressed to answer why I chose this particular race, my answer is very simple, that this seat belongs to the people of Miami-Dade County. That being said, I don't have control of anybody around who may have their own motives or agendas. I will say that I don't think that judicial races necessarily are, it takes away from, I guess, the dignified aspect of our judicial races. And so my position is that I don't support that, I don't do that, and I had nothing to do with that. And I think that my qualifications, my experience, my campaign that I have run very positively, I think speaks for itself.
Thank you for that. Judge Rabul, what is your position on these types of negative ads in judicial races?
I mean, having been the victim of one, I can tell you that I think they're extremely hurtful. I think that they distract from what the voters are being asked in this race. I was happy to hear that from some feedback from some voters, one voter in particular who told me that she received the ad and she told me in Spanish and that she thought it was disgusting and she ripped it up and it made her want to vote for me even more. I certainly would not want anybody to ever have to be, I frankly think negative ads like that, I mean, I've been on the professionalism committee as a co-chair since 2013. So it has been a really important part of my life for everybody to always act with civility and professionalism and be focused on the merits of things. And so I think that they certainly have no place in any election. And in particular, I agree with my opponent in a judicial election where the judiciary is held almost in a different regard and a different standard than our elected offices like the legislature and the executive branch. And so I appreciate you asking about it. And I hope that everybody feels the same way as that voter who spoke to me outside of the early voting site. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Judge Ruiz, you emphasized during a recent forum that the, quote, punishment for signing that letter was an opinion by the Florida Supreme Court that just reversed it's an opinion, unquote. However, the order issued by the Florida Supreme Court stated that you and the other 5 judges, quote, admitted their wrongdoing and agreed that the alleged violation of the canons were demonstrated by clear and convincing evidence, end quote. Are you withdrawing your admission of wrongdoing or claiming that there was not clear and convincing evidence of the violations of judicial canons?
Absolutely not. No. First, there were 7 jurists who signed the letter, not just 5, with a combined 232 years of experience, including administrative judges, former administrative judges, as assistant administrative judges. The point I was trying to make was that it was essentially an incorrect legal decision. And the Supreme Court applied the least severe punishment possible, which was a written reprimand. So it is essentially like a reversal. You did this, you were wrong. I admit that I was wrong, no question about it. And the opinion itself was the sanction. So that's what I meant, is that judges make mistakes, and we absolutely made a mistake. But there were reasons for it, and in my case, I was part of a board, the CBC Alliance, and I was a member of the board that was tasked with advising the Department of Children and Families what programs were working and what programs were not. So under that concept, I was mistakenly under the impression that I could give an opinion, and I was absolutely incorrect. So judges who are on boards cannot do so. Thank you for the opportunity to answer that.
Thank you, Judge.
You're
Turning it
welcome.
over to Daniel Mendez.
Thank you, Miriam. This question is for Mr. Mirabal. Why are you running for this position, and what makes you more qualified than your opponent?
Well, I'm running for judge, as I said before. It's something I really truly believe in. I've been working in public service in different areas, either pro bono, even before I was a lawyer, for many, many years. And there's something that you have inside. It's a passion that you have. It's a burning passion you have inside to help others. Now, how can I help others? I have a law degree. I've been a good attorney. I've been working for 16 years in different parts of the law. And I think the best way I can help the citizens and the residents of Miami-Dade County with the tools that I have and the educational background that I have is being a judge. So that's why I'm running, number one. Why am I running in this race? Well, it could have been this race. It could have been another race. It's a goal that I have set for myself that I want to do. So I mean, from what I've heard, Judge Mansfield is a great person and a great judge. I think I have more experience in the sense I've done everything. So I've done a lot of things that you do in circuit court, and a lot of things you do in county court. I've done it from evictions, I've done domestic violence, I've done civil litigation, I've done a little bit of criminal, but I've done pretty much everything you do in both sides. And both sides, like I said, circuit court and county court. So I have, in my 16 years, I've done it pretty much all. From family, I've done divorces, you name it. So I think I'm uniquely qualified to hit the ground running wherever they put me immediately. So that's why I'm running now. Like I said, I'm running not so much against Judge Mansfield, I'm running for the position that I think I can do a great job at.
Thank you very much for that. The next question is going to be for Judge Tunis. Your opponent, Ms. Aponte, recently stated to the Miami editorial board that a reason for opposing you is that you were, quote, not elected to the bench by the people, end quote. Do you believe that the current system of electing circuit and county court judges should be changed? Why or why not?
There's an extraordinary amount of vetting that occurs when one goes in front of the Judicial Nomination Commission. And I think that all we need to do, let me just say this, is to look at the amount of, when we see all of these appointments, that means those 9 individuals are spending an extraordinary amount of time reviewing applications, calling up references, interviewing folks. I am the product, as I said, of the appointment process, but let's not forget, if I didn't say this, that I've been up 3 different times, first for retention initially and then re-election, and I never received an opponent. I consider that to be an honor, that did not happen, because I believe that means that people in the legal community believe that I was doing a good job in terms of following the law and in working as a judge diligently and hard. So I can only say to you that, of course, the concern is that a voter having no information regarding a candidate, and we are limited on what we can say, as you well know, through the judicial canons. So the difficulty, of course, is that a voter can go into the voting booth or look at a ballot and check off any name. That must be juxtaposed, of course, the voter's right to vote. So I'm not going to say which system I think should be the total system. We have a hybrid system. Some of us are now, here today on this panel as a result of that system, and I'm honored to be here and answer your questions. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Judge. The next question is for Mr. Vereen. What is the most significant case that you have worked on as an advocate?
The most significant case that I have worked on as an advocate would be the case out of Washington, D.C., where I represented a gentleman by the name of Christopher Hall, who was charged with being a drug kingpin. It was D.C.'s largest drug kingpin case, 5 tons of cocaine, 113 witnesses, 30,000 wiretap conversations, of which my client was on every last one of them. There were 5 defendants, and there were a number of, 5 lawyers, and there were about 4 prosecutors that were involved in the case. The case took us a total of 15 months to try. I had to live in Washington, D.C. in a hotel during that period of time. And I had 4 months to prepare for trial because he had an attorney that had been, that had advised the court that he could no longer represent him. So I came into that case and I had to go through 29 boxes of discovery and be prepared to go to trial. And so it was the most taxing trial that I ever had. And imagine involved in a case 10 hours a day where you are, cross-examining witnesses and doing direct examinations of witnesses for a period of 15 months nonstop. The level of stress that I had to endure was unlike any I had ever endured before, and even in some of my death penalty cases. And so that was the most complicated trial that I'd ever had. I learned a lot, and actually we were victorious. So that was the most exciting case I had ever been involved in.
Thank you for that. And now I'll turn it over to Javi Soto.
Thank you, Danny. The next question is going to be to Judge Mansfield. While your You're in county court, and obviously your cases wouldn't have several tons of cocaine involved in it. What would be your most significant case that you have worked on, presided over as a judge?
Okay, so I started thinking about this because you asked the previous person the question, and I thought, gosh, what case would I talk about? And then I thought, thank you, I didn't get that question. So I don't know. We get down here in county court. It's a volume. We get a large volume of cases. But the case I probably that draws my attention the most is a case where a young man was charged with misdemeanor battery. But the facts were pretty egregious, and it could have been charged as a much more serious crime, and it wasn't. It was charged as a misdemeanor battery, but he was on felony probation. So the outcome of this trial had a larger impact for him, because if he was convicted, then that conviction would be used against him on his felony probation, and he could be facing, I think, up to life on the felony that he was violating. So that was probably the most significant case. And it's any case. Listen, one thing I've learned, whether it's county or whether it's circuit, that day in court's important to whoever is in court on that day. I think back to when I used to get a speeding ticket, and the night before I'd go to court, I'd be nervous. I couldn't sleep because coming to court could be very, very traumatic, or it's very daunting. So this was a case where this woman testified about this battery, and it was pretty egregious. And she took a pretty good beating from an unknown assailant who was a male, and she was terrified. But she came in here and sat on the stand and said what happened to her. And I think that case just stands out because I really had to make this a comfortable environment to get her as comfortable as she could be, and to make sure that we had a fair process. So that's probably the case I think that stands out the most. There was a lot of writing on it, but also I guess the feeling that these people coming into court were just traumatized by being here. I'm here every day. This is my home, so it's comfortable for me. But it's a reminder that it's not comfortable for everyone.
All right. Thank you very much, and I'm glad you were able to come up with a response to the question you didn't want. So the next question is going to be to Judge Banding. Is why should you be retained as a judge, and please provide specific reasons.
So and now you're eating into my 45-second closing. So I love my job, and like I said before in my intro, I'm actually really good at my job. It's in this job, it's very you are quick to find out within 24 hours. If you did a bad job. If somebody's angry. If something's off. But when you're doing a good job, you don't actually get that feedback until you're placed in the position that I am placed in now. And when you're placed in this position, that's when all of a sudden everybody comes out and people start telling you, listen, you're doing a great job and we want to make sure that we keep you on the bench. So it's not only that I love my job, but it's that I'm actually doing a very good job. I am patient. I am incredibly patient. And I'm currently sitting in the domestic violence division, which is where, my patience actually is something that can be used, because that is the people's court. And people sometimes want to go to that court and they just want to be heard. And I set the tone from the beginning. I'm respectful to everybody. I want everybody to be respectful amongst each other. And on top of that, the community knows that. And that's why I have endorsements from the firefighters, from the Police Benevolent Association, from SAVE, even the not Christian Family Coalition, but other Christian groups have. I have the unions. I have the Latin Builders Association. I have the Miami Herald as of yesterday. I have mayors coming out and endorsing me. I have commissioners coming out and endorsing me, because at the end of the day, I am doing a good job. And people should have faith that I will continue to do a good job, because I love my community. This is the community where I was born and raised, and it is a community that I want to continue to serve as a public servant, for as long as I can.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for that answer. His next question is going to be going to Mr. Spector. Is how would you prepare to handle cases that involve areas of law with which you are unfamiliar?
Thanks. The same way I prepare for cases now. There's always issues that come up in cases that you're litigating that you're not familiar with, that you've never litigated before. You just have to put your nose to the grindstone and do the work. Ask other attorneys who practice in that area of law who may have come across those issues before. Never afraid to ask questions. Read. Case law, I mean, even reading case law for the issues with which I'm familiar, sometimes there's dicta, sometimes there are other issues or holdings in that case that, lead you kind of down the rabbit hole in Westlaw. And before you know it, it's 3 hours later and you're reading cases that have absolutely nothing to do with what you're researching, but you learn a lot. So, I mean, you never have to be afraid to ask questions. Lean on your colleagues. I know there's a great mentorship program that the courts put on. There's Judicial College. So, I mean, as long as you're willing to put in the time and effort, you're not afraid to ask questions, and you want to learn because you're driven to do a good job and come to the right decision. I mean, you have to have that inside you to, want to make sure that you rule the right way, that you're well informed before make a ruling, and just, general preparation. And, I've done that throughout my entire career. Like I said, I've jumped from one area of law to another. I've taken on new roles, for several different clients from all different sectors of industry, and I've always been successful, and I think that formula will enable me to be successful as a judge.
Well, thank you very much for your answer. And now I'll turn it over to Miriam.
Ms. Cabarga, what case has most affected your judicial philosophy or impacted your career as an attorney? And please explain to us why.
Wow. That's a totality kind of circumstance for me. I was a prosecutor with the Department of Children and Families for about 5 years, and I came over to the defense in dependency. It's almost 7 years now in the same area. And the law is what I'm conservative, I guess, at my judicial philosophy, because it's the law that always brings me back to the basics. It's the law that always brings me, sometimes you get lost in, I have very high emotional cases, highly emotional cases, very high stakes cases. And, sometimes all of that plus different facts and, different personalities can kind of steer you. But when you go back and you go back to the law and you go back to the basics, it kind of grounds you again, and you start again from the clear, impartial perspective of where you need to take that case as an advocate for your client, whether it's the state or whether it's a child or mom or dad. Thank you.
Ms. Hansen, you have stated on several forums that you oppose Judge Ruiz as she was reprimanded by the Florida Supreme Court. The Florida Supreme Court also reprimanded for the same issue 2 other judges who were up for re-election this cycle. Why did you select your opponent instead of those 2 other judges?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, the most basic and most important asset and skill a judge must have is good judgment. In my opponent's, regarding my opponent, it's not just one issue. Yes, there was the reprimand, but there's a pattern of poor judgment, in my opinion. She has been reversed 7 times in the past 13 months. She received several violations during her last election, and she chose to run against a very esteemed and reputable judge last time, Judge Fleur Labrie. In my opinion, that's concerning. It's a example of a pattern of poor judgment, and I believe it's time for change. And that's why I chose her and not the other individuals. In addition, the last factor is that my opponent did not file to retain her seat. It was September. All of the other judges had done that, and they had already raised money. My opponent had not. I was the first one to file in that seat, and that's why I filed for that, to answer your question.
Thank you very much for that answer. Javier?
Sure. The next question is going to go to Ms. Adebayo. Ms. Adebayo, you were quoted in the July 31, 2020 article in the Daily Business Review as having said that Carmen Cabarga was in an open seat, and that, referring to your opponent, that he could have gone there. The quote continues, but understand, they believe Black candidates can't raise money. My name, Adebayo, isn't a recognizable name, and here we are. Why do you believe Mr. Perkins should have contested Ms. Kuabarga instead of you?
So, let me take this off. It wasn't necessarily that he should have contested Carmen Carbaga. It's the untruth of what he said, that the only seat he could have chosen was my seat. And that's not true. Carmen Carbaga was also in an open seat. It's also misleading when you say you're the first to file. Yes, he was the first to file over all the candidates back when we both were not successful in our last election. So yes, that's what he did. And he was in Judge Celeste Muir's open seat. Michelle Delancey chose to run against him. He then chose to run against me, saying he had 10,000 more votes than me. Well, he had 150,000 more votes than Carmen Carbaga. He had more than 150,000 votes more than Michelle Delancey. So I believe he chose to run against me, as I stated, because African-American candidates usually don't raise the amount of money they need to run a judicial race, and also because of the Adebayo name. But my name had been out there since last run, so at his, and we are in this race together. And also it's misleading when he has put his money towards the campaign and people see it and they see, oh, he's raised $100,000. That's not true. He has raised $30,000 to $40,000 and he has loaned himself the rest of the money. And I just want the truth to be out there. Again, I've received the official endorsement of the Miami Herald, the endorsement of the unions, the endorsement of local firefighters 1403, the endorsement of past CABA board presidents and board members, Hector Lambada, Javier Lopez, Corey Castro Lopez, and I appreciate all those endorsements. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Adebayo. Mr. Perkins, this little segue there is, of the 40 plus other seats that were open for election this year, what were the reasons for opposing Ms. Adebayo, and did her name have any bearing on that?
Sure. So first, I believe that I personally did not want to challenge an incumbent unless I saw that there was an incumbent who was very incompetent or very unethical. And in this particular race, there were 2 open seats. So I didn't run against an incumbent. I was the first to file, with the exception of Spencer Ide, who filed like 3 years before this cycle. And then Michelle Delancey filed against me. At the time, Ms. Kuabarga had someone else in her race. So she was in a 2-person race. The only options for a total of 2-person race were remain in the seat where Judge-elect Delancey filed against me, or move over to Ms. Adebayo's seat. And for me, it was a simple choice, because if you look at Judge-elect Delancey's experience, academic pedigree, it's very robust. It's very robust and diverse. She has a Georgetown undergrad. She's also multilingual. And meanwhile, Ms. Adebayo, the only other option for me, were both candidates in 2018. I outperformed her by 10,000 votes, a little over 10,000 votes. And I outperformed her not just in some precincts, but diverse precincts, including in majority Black precincts. So we are all running for judge because we want to win our election. And I know I'm running because I want to serve the community. So I chose where I thought I would be more competitive. And the numbers don't lie. Votes are votes. So I'm glad I made that choice, and I ask for every single vote in this room. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, next I'm going to pass it over to Giselle for another, at the end of, now that we're at end of round 2.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to correct my pronunciation of Judge Iekwaba's last name. Congratulations on your recent appointment to the bench. For our next 2 winners, we have Carol Kelly and Christina Rabinet. So we'll reach out with the email for you to get in touch with Carla and get your CABA rocks.
Miriam?
Yes. With that, we're seeing on the chat that Judge Rue is asked to respond to Ms. Hansen's last statement. Judge Ruiz?
Thank you so much. You can see my video, right? Because right now I just, I see, that's okay. That's all right. I'll respond. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Thank you. So counsel's first allegation against or mention is that I had a financial violation in 2014. During this election cycle, there have been other people who have had violations. In 2014, my CPA accountant came down with a migraine and did not meet her deadline. And that was why there was a violation. And again, it's 6 years ago and it has nothing to do with ethical conduct. It's like an administrative thing. Secondly, that I ran against another judge, and I don't think that revenge is a reason to run against someone. So I find that distasteful. Thirdly, that I filed late. So she filed against me September 27th of the year 2019. I had until April 24th of 2020 to file. So the idea that that I wasn't going to retire, I was just going to quit my job, does not really resonate with me. Something with that. That I've been reversed. Well, that's misleading because I've only been in civil for about 2.5 years, something like that. So the cases don't come around for an appellate decision until about 18 months. So out of the 29 civil jury trials, I have never been reversed. Out of the 100 or so dependency and TPR trials, never been reversed. Out of the probably more than 100 delinquency trials, 99 were never reversed, and one was simply reduced from a felony to a misdemeanor. So I think if you look at the numbers, I think it's very, very misleading. Thank you.
All right, Judge Rabol, what case has proven to be the most educational for you, personally or professionally, and tell us why?
Oh gosh, I would say one of the cases that was most educational for me professionally was a case where it's actually two cases. And in the other case, there was a not guilty. And it was just very interesting to see how that, from my perspective, that the evidence mattered and the way the witnesses testified mattered. And in one of the cases, the victim in the case, which resulted in a not guilty, had had a pending civil suit. And so she was cross-examined very effectively on the fact that if there was a guilty verdict in the criminal case, it would help her in her civil case. And it just was a real lesson to me on two very similar cases where the evidence matters. Real quick, personally, the one was a case where a boyfriend was riding very recklessly on an ATV and his girlfriend was on the back, and they had a terrible accident and she died. And he was charged with essentially with manslaughter. And he was extremely upset and distraught. And the capacity for forgiveness that I saw in the courtroom between her family, the woman that passed away, and him and his family, it was really something that I don't think there was a dry eye in the courtroom when I saw how willing they were to forgive him. And he was still going to be punished, but they certainly had a huge capacity for forgiveness.
Thank you, Judge Javier.
Sure, thank you. The next question is going to be from Mr. Mirabal. Is what voluntary professional and community service activities have you been involved with over the past 5 to 10 years, and how do you think that will assist you in being a judge?
That's something that I'm very proud of and something that I take very seriously. Not just me, but anybody who works in my firm, any mentees, any interns, and any junior attorneys or associates that work with us. CABA is one of them, obviously, but also I've done with GALA, the Gay and Lesbian Lawyers Association. I've also worked with other organizations that are not legal organizations like WECA, Women's Enhancement Council of the Americas, Pain to a Purpose, which helps victims of domestic violence. What we do there is when women are abused or women are in domestic violence situations, we try to get them looking pretty, get them hair, makeup, interviews for jobs. They're having their resumes look good so they can join the workforce. And also the Powerhouse Forum. FNU, Florida National University, has a thing called the Powerhouse, which I don't know if many of you know about it. It's basically a clearinghouse for domestic violence, human trafficking, child sex abuse situations. And we work also with the police, state attorney, with different police organizations, for everything from Miami Beach, Hialeah, Miami-Dade County, to try to work together to stop human trafficking and domestic violence issues. So those are some of the ones that I work with, hands-on. Other ones I belong to, but these are the ones that I actually get my hands dirty working with day in, day out.
Thank you very much. The next question, it's going to go to Ms. Adebayo, is why are you running for this position and what makes you a better candidate than your opponent?
Yes, thank you for that. So I'm running because I want to serve the community. I've been doing this for over 20 years. As I stated, I'm really originally from Chicago. My family is here now. I moved my mom down here. And this community is diverse. And I believe that our bench should be diverse as well. Our bench is 109 years old. We have 123 judges. 11 are African American. I have diverse, not just because I'm an African American woman, but because of my career. I have over 50 jury trials. That's 9 more than my opponent. I have over 20 years experience. My opponent has 13. I have practiced in 4 out of the 6 divisions. I have practiced in criminal, civil, dependency, juvenile, and family. And I believe I'm more qualified because of my, my years of practice, over having the over 50 jury trials. There's nothing like experience of having it. The rules of evidence. My favorite movie is A Few Good Men. I love training officers and new prosecutors with it. Your palms start getting sweaty and you get in court, and this is what I enjoy to do. And now I want to do it from the bench, serving the community. I'm not a politician, I'm a public servant. My whole career, growing up in Chicago with Operation Push, coming to Miami, being a role model for 5,000 role models, mentor speaker, Women of Tomorrow. I really feel our juveniles need a lot of encouragement and empowerment. I want my courtroom to be where you're heard, where the litigants and the community can come in and feel comfortable and have faith that the judicial system actually works. It's not for just the judges and the lawyers, it's for the community, it's for the people. And that's why I want to serve, just having my whole life as a public servant. That service is a rent we pay for the privilege of living on this earth. Having been a past president of Gwinnett Sherry Black Women Lawyers Association, always partnering with CABA, having been a CABA member and having a CABA mentee has been amazing. So my whole life, legal career and personal life is diverse, and I'm gonna serve from the bench in doing that for this diverse community. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Adebayo. Appreciate that. I'm going to pass it off to Danny now.
Thanks, Avi. This question is for Judge Tunis. How do you prepare to handle cases that involve areas of the law which you may not be familiar with?
The first thing that I do when an issue such as that comes in front of me is tell the lawyers in open court that I'm unfamiliar with that area, ask them to submit to me anything that they want me to read and review. I'm just thinking through the appellate process. I had a case in front of me, which is a pending case, but the issue that I'm just going to bring up is already been addressed by the appellate courts. But I had some cases in front of me, one particular one that talked about the area of false confession. And it was one side wanting to put on a witness and the other side wanting to put on a witness. So that morphed into, I had never dealt with that specific issue. And then that morphed into whether or not I was going to allow the witness to testify. So not only did I ask them all to submit everything regarding that, we went to, and I'm thinking back, it was, I believe that we were right at the point where it was between Fry and Dauber. We then went into all of the research regarding that. And then I took all of that and then did my own research. But that process began with me telling them that I needed to be educated. And then I took what they gave me, reviewed all of it, and then went forward from there. So that's how I deal with something that I don't know. You admit it, and then you learn.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Judge.
Thank you, sir.
This question now is for Mr. Vereen. What case or type of cases do you feel least qualified to handle, and why?
Can you hear me? Yeah, those would be probably civil cases, and I would say complex civil cases. Never had to deal with any of those other than wrongful death cases, and those aren't complex in the sense of a lot of different type issues that I would have to address. For the past 30 years, my practice have been primarily federal criminal, state criminal. I've had civil rights cases that were cases in federal court, but I have not had a lot of experience, tackling the numerous issues that rear their heads in complex civil litigation. I know lawyers who practice complex civil litigation, and I think I spoke about one case before that I had got involved with regard to the death of a longshoreman where a container had fallen on him on the docks and killed him. And that case was unlike any I had ever handled before. And I literally had to turn the case over to a civil firm that handled that type of litigation, who was actually a co-counsel in the case. And so by being a part of that case, I learned a lot about what I did not know. And so if I am elected as judge and I am put in the civil division, that would be a learning curve. And I would have to clearly tag along with lawyers and judges that have handled these type of issues before, and probably have to get some type of tutelage before I will be competent enough or feel confident enough to handle those particular cases. So like Judge Tuna said, you don't know all the issues. And so and when you don't know the issues, you simply ask those lawyers to present something to you in writing, so you have an opportunity to read up and actually teach yourself and learn what you need to learn before you start trying to rule on these cases. And one of the good things about being a judge is that you don't have to rush the judgment.
Thank you very much. This next question is for Judge Mansfield. Are there any specific type of cases that you believe would require you to recuse yourself? And if so, what kinds of cases are those, and why would you need to feel the need to recuse yourself?
Okay, so to recuse yourself, you're basically saying that you can't sit, either you have a conflict with the case or there's some kind of a bias or a mindset that you have that you feel that you could not be the judge that presides over their case. And there's not a case out there or a subject that I could think of that right off the bat would force me to say, oh, I can't touch that case, I have to recuse because that involves whatever. So there's nothing of that matter whatsoever that I can think of that would cause me to take that kind of an action. Every case that comes before you is different. Every case has its own issues and its own factors, I guess, that every judge considers. But there's nothing that I can think of that I would immediately recuse myself from. It's a learning. Every case, I mean, as you go along, there maybe something comes along, but there's nothing that is so embedded in my mindset about anything that I would think to myself, oh, I could never handle a case in that field because of whatever. I can't think of anything.
Thank you. And with that, I'll turn it over to Miriam.
All right, Judge Bandon, name 3 traits you think are least desirable in a judge.
You need to have the proper judicial temperament. So I guess somebody who doesn't know how to handle their courtroom is probably one of the least. You have to be, I guess that goes hand in hand with being respectful. You have to treat everybody equally. So I guess anybody that is partial to one person or partial to an attorney or partial to a party is not something you want in a judge. And you have to be dedicated. So you want to make sure that a judge is dedicated not only to working, but to serving their community, to making sure that they are there working. Even when we're in the middle of a pandemic, we are on Zoom, we are here serving our community, we are dedicated to making sure that there are people that have access to the courts. So somebody who is not dedicated would be, I guess, something you don't want in a judge.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Spector, While hosting virtual hearings has been a big step to incorporate technology into the judicial process, what other technological tools do you think would become more commonplace or should become more commonplace?
Well, I think you should be able to conduct a lot of things virtually, and I think that, you know, this technology, introduction to this technology has come years too late. Depositions, mediations, with this being the new normal, and, you know, we don't know when it's going to end. I mean, I think you could conduct a lot of proceedings and those things via technology, and I think that we need to expand and open up this technology beyond lawyers. In county court, a lot of the litigants appear pro se because they can't afford an attorney, and when they have to appear in person pro se, they need to take time off of work. So by forcing these litigants to come down to the courthouse to appear for a 5-minute motion calendar and making them miss half a day to a full day of pay, you're essentially forcing them to make the decision between enforcing or defending their rights and providing for their families. So I think that more of this technology needs to be incorporated in other areas besides just hearings, and it needs to be expanded to allow everybody, not just attorneys, the flexibility to appear virtually, whether it's via Zoom, Skype, or even telephonically. And I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Ms. Cabarga, what is your greatest professional accomplishment?
My greatest professional accomplishment has been the ability to, I just think of faces, help clients resolve very difficult issues and matters in their life. And probably the most difficult time they have ever faced. And I was able to be a part of a constructive part of that, a part to help them get it right, a part that I was able to play a voice on their behalf and make sure that they were treated fairly, that they were treated according to the law, and that they got their what was the right and just outcome. Professionally, it is the most rewarding thing for me to be able to do that on a daily basis. For the last about 16 years, I've been able to do that. It's just been a very rewarding and beautiful career for me as a whole.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Javier?
Thank you, Miriam. The next question is going to go to Ms. Martinez-Scanziani. Is why did you select to run against an incumbent, and what are the specific reasons you believe he should be replaced?
Well, I think I alluded to this in my previous answer, and I think, you know, there were many judges who were elected unopposed, and ordinarily in political races, incumbents draw opposition all the time. In this particular instance, the people have never elected in this position. So I believe that we live in a democracy. I feel very strongly in that process, and I believe that it's time for the people to have a voice. I do believe I'm the more qualified candidate in this race. I'm actually the only legal expert designated by the Florida Bar who's running for judge. You know, as I alluded to before, I'm not trying to counter or to speak about my opponent. I run on my own merits, my own experience, my own qualifications, which I feel make me uniquely suited to be able to serve this amazing county on the bench. So.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Martinez-Scanziani. The next question is going to go to Ms. Giordano Hansen. Do you believe that women and minorities are underrepresented in our court system? If so, what do you think should be done to address this problem?
I actually don't believe that women are underrepresented. I believe that women actually make up 50% or more of our judiciary. So thankfully, we are represented, and I am grateful and appreciative of the fact that women are there. Minorities, I don't believe that they are representative of the city that we live in. I have traveled the city at this point so much, and I've met so many wonderful and diverse people and I don't see all of their faces on the bench. And it would be helpful if their faces were on the bench, because it would make people feel more comfortable if they see others like them on the bench. So I do believe that possibly a way to help that is for the judges that are on the bench right now to get out into the community more often and to show young people, for instance, in high school and elementary school, that they have the possibility of getting to a position of a judge or an elected official, that they can do it if they put hard work into it. Because if those children see what it takes to get to that position, maybe they would have the confidence to feel that they can make it. So I think getting out into the community more, exposing judges more to the community and getting to know the children of the community, it would help.
Thank you very much, Ms. Giordano Hansen. The next question is going to go to Mr. Perkins. So why are you running for the position, and what makes you a better candidate than your opponent?
For me, it's 100% service. I'm leading a very successful private sector partnership because I believe that, especially in our state system, and especially now with the backlog of cases that we're going to have with the COVID pandemic, it doesn't matter how smart you are, it doesn't matter how sincere you are, how good of a person you are. If you're not ready to roll up your sleeves and work hard to adjudicate cases, justice is going to fall through the cracks. Our state judges have thousands of cases compared to our federal judges, for example. And you know, I've won cases and I've lost cases. And the only losses that leave a bad taste in my mouth are when I felt that the judge didn't fully prepare, and I decided that I was going to do something about it. You know, and as for the second part of the question, you know, I hate these comparison questions because I really believe that comparisons are below the dignity of this office. But you know, I'll share what I bring. Top academic credentials. I'm an honors graduate of Boston University School of Law. Top litigation experience. I'm a complex commercial litigator. I've argued. I've a very heavy federal trial experience, where the rules of evidence also apply. I've argued before the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals multiple times, including just last week. I brief 100-page issues occasionally. And I think that we need judges with diverse experience because, look, I think that state attorney experience is great. I think it's awesome. I think that volume trial period experience is awesome, but it's not everything, right? Anywhere from 10%, or I'm sorry, 0.1% to 1/4% of cases are resolved by a jury. 20% of cases are judge dispositions. Another very large percentage are bench dispositions. We need more private sector commercial litigators presiding over cases as well. And I look forward to learning areas that where I don't have the experience. That is part of the job. Thank you. Right. Again, I ask for your vote, Joe Perkins.
Thank you very much, Joe. And so this concludes our round 3. We're going to move it over to Giselle to select our final rock winners.
Thank you, Javi. So I will repeat the winners that we have so far. Amanda Nalzajeff, Judge Iyaguaba, Judge Kelly, Christina Rabinet, and then our remaining 6 winners will be Kathy Buckaloo, Matthew Wilkinson, Trinette Zaran, Marva Wiley, Alberto Manrara, and Diane Feinberg.
Thank you very much, G. And just a reminder is all of our winners, thank you very much. Make sure to look into the chat and email Carla Pasqua at our email to get contact information, and so we can get you the rocks. So that closes our questions and answers, and thank you very much to all the judges. I just want to say we had about 5 more rounds that we could have gone. We wanted to ask a lot of questions, but it was great to hear from each one of you. So now I'm going to switch it over to Danny to bring in candidate closings.
Thank you, Javi, and again, thank you all the candidates for being with us today and joining CABA. I'm gonna go through the list and ask each candidate to give their closing statement and also mention 2 positives and strengths of your opponent in that closing statement. So I'll go ahead and start with Judge Tunis first.
I've never met my opponent. I have never met her in person to my knowledge. And I believe the first time I physically knew what she looked like was on a forum that I attended and was participating in, that I believe may have been the Wilkie D. Ferguson Bar Association forum. I believe that's the first time I saw her. I cannot provide any information regarding her. I can, however, tell you that it's been an honor to sit on the bench, and I've had nearly 20 years of experience in terms of trial experience, jury trial, non-jury trial, involvement in the court system, giving back to my colleagues throughout the state by being involved in statewide teaching. I've carried myself, I believe, in a respectful and professional manner, and treated others with dignity and respect, which is what they deserve. And again, it's simply my honor to be a judge in Miami-Dade County, and I thank you so much for inviting me to this forum. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judge.
My
I will
pleasure.
go ahead and turn it over now to Ms. Marcia Giordano Hansen.
Thank you, CABA, for giving us this opportunity to speak to you and get to know you. And thank you for letting me tell you about me and get to know me a little bit better. So I believe that it's time for change, and I believe that I am the candidate that can provide the good change for this office. I have the education, I have the experience, and I have the peer recognition. I have worked in the diverse areas of civil and criminal, also state and federal. I have tried close to 30 trials in both civil, criminal, and federal. I have been vetted by the JMC, and I have been selected 4 times to go before the governor's office for an appointment. And that's an extreme vetting process, so I think that says something about qualifications. I'm also AV preeminent rated. I am 10.0 on ABO, and I am ready for this job, and I'm qualified for this job, and it's time for change. So I would cherish the honor if I were to be voted into office, and I thank you again for allowing me to get to know you a little bit better.
Thank you so much. And I hate to follow up, but we really would like to know if you can mention 2 strengths about your opponent.
I don't know my opponent that well, so it's hard for me to say that.
Okay, not a problem. Thank you. Judge Ruiz. Judge Ruiz, I think you're on mute.
Thank you. Well, Ms. Giordano and I worked together in front of Judge Schumacher when we were both assistant public defenders about 15 years ago. Nevertheless, here we are. As I mentioned earlier, the Miami Herald endorsed me yesterday, quoting that I was hardworking and efficient. In your CABA poll, I was rated 86.13% exceptionally qualified or qualified. I've only been in civil 2.5 years, and I never did a civil trial before that. Yet I've done 29 civil trials and civil jury trials and never been reversed. I was the highest rated judge in your poll for court operations during this COVID pandemic at 68.49%. I received an 85% regarding the way I treat Hispanics fairly. But I will argue that I treat everyone fairly. I am Judge Mavel Ruiz, and I'm 317 on your ballot. I have been unanimously endorsed by AFL-CIO, AFSCME Transport Workers Union, United Faculty of Miami-Dade College, Save Action PAC, the League of Prosecutors, Service Employees International Union, which is nurses, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Engage, the Police Benevolent Association. I've been a judge for almost 6 years, and before that I was an attorney for 19 years. Those 29 trials that I did, my first civil jury trial was within 2 weeks of coming to the civil bench. And I did them in about 26 months, including a tobacco trial with hundreds of jurors. I've done 50 jury trials, including half a dozen murder trials before coming to the bench, thousands of depositions, thousands of bench and evidentiary trials. I'm the first in my family to graduate from college and receive a professional degree, and I'm the first to be elected. Out of 150, more than 150 appealed cases, not a single jury trial has been reversed. Hundreds of dependency and TPR bench trials never reversed. And as I mentioned, kind of a half reversal in a delinquency trial out of about 100. Abraham Lincoln said, want to know somebody's character, give them power. And you've seen my character. I'm respectful, and I'd like to, I hope you re-elect me. And I wouldn't want to say any negatives about my opponent and positives. I think she's probably a very, very good mom and wife.
Thank you so much, Judge. Thank you so much for that. We're going to turn it over now to Ms. Denise Martinez Scanziani, a closing and 2 positive things you can say about your opponent.
Sure. I'll start with the positive. You know, as a mom of teenagers myself, I've seen his teenage daughters out campaigning for him. And so I would say by all accounts, that's a reflection of him being a really good dad and having the support of his daughters, because it's not easy to get teenagers to do much of anything. And I'm also impressed by the fact that he did clerk with the district court as an appellate attorney. I value that type of work very, very much. So that would be the 2 positives about him. As to myself, as I've said before, I am Denise Martinez Scanziani, lifelong resident of Miami-Dade County. I am passionate about justice, passionate about serving, have been doing so my entire career. With over 20 years of experience, I am now ready to give the best that I have to this community. So I invite you to learn more about me on my webpage if you need to, but other than that, 314 Denise Martinez Scanziani for Circuit Court Judge. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Judge Rabol, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. I was actually going to say the same thing, that by all accounts that I have, Ms. Martinez Scanziani is a great mom, and I've heard her say that she's married to her high school sweetheart, and it's very commendable to still have that relationship, and her husband being a supporter of hers. I think that's commendable. It's also commendable that she's board certified. That's no easy feat. I have lawyers who put me down as references for board certification in civil trial law and criminal trial law, and I think she should be commended for that. And I also appreciate the fact that she denounces negative campaigning, and I hope that whoever is doing it will stop and that she'll join me in asking for that. I thank you all so much for this opportunity to speak to you. It's been an honor to serve as your judge, and I hope to continue to do so for 6 more years. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judge. Now we're going to turn it over to Ms. Cabarga. 2 positive things you can say about your opponent and the closing.
Yes, he has many years of experience, and he has the courage to run. I've never met him, but that I do know. As far as myself, I ask for your vote, 312. I have been in Miami-Dade County and practiced here my entire legal career. I am prepared at this time. I have done, yes, jury trials, yes, bench trials, yes, I've been in the courtroom for all these years, and I think it's just a matter of making sure the person has the disposition to and the ability to learn and to work hard and have a proven track record of having done that. And I do have that, and I ask for your vote. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Cabarga. And Mr. Vereen.
Okay. With regard to the positives about my opponent, and I think that, well, not I think, she appears to be a very compassionate lawyer and a woman who clearly loves her job and her family. And also impressive is that, you know, anyone who runs for judge, they have to put themselves out on the line to serve the community. So I respect that with regard to not just Ms. Cabarga, but with anyone who wants to serve the community. with regard to me, I think my experience and dedication to the craft practice of law have been demonstrated by the 30 years of experience that I have working in the field that I've been working in. I just would ask everyone to go out and vote, look at the qualifications of the candidates, and vote your conscience. And I'm 313 on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vereen. Now we're going to shift to Group 55, Ms. Adebayo.
Yes, sir. Two positives. I would say that I have seen him out in the community and that his appellate practice and even federal practice is daunting when we all have to go to federal court. But having said that, again, I've been practicing over 20 years in Miami-Dade County. We say 310 is my punch number. We say 310 for the win because what you get is a diverse candidate. You get a diverse candidate in legal practice, the 20 years, having tried over 50 jury trials, numerous bench trials. Again, there's nothing like that trial experience. Having to think on your feet. Things, happen during trial. When people say, don't you get nervous and scared? I do get nervous about trial, but it's logistics, having your witnesses in place, getting them where they need to be. Miami-Dade County has a heavy caseload. I've juggled 300 cases at a time as a former prosecutor. So I humbly ask for your vote. You get a very diverse candidate, legal career, trial experience, extensive community service, and a public service at heart. So again, thank you, CABA, for this opportunity. As a past president, it's not easy to get everybody together to put a forum on that. So kudos to you. Again, 310 for the win, August 18th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Perkins.
So, I would recognize the same positives in Ms. Adebayo. She's committed to voluntary bar associations, the past president of Gwen Cherry. Every time I've volunteered with the legal clinics for Wilkie Ferguson or Caribbean Bars Association, for the most part, she's always there as well. I also volunteer a lot in the community. One of the organizations is 100 Black Men of South Florida, and I remember at least 2 years ago, she was the only other candidate volunteering with that organization as well. So I give her credit for also volunteering. I like to close on a personal note because it's one thing to talk about resumes, but I think that you should know your candidates. And I only have 15 seconds left. So as you all know, family is something that's very important to me. My wife and I eloped and got married 17 years ago as teenagers without telling anyone. I'm a very proud dad of a 3-year-old. And I'm really grateful for this opportunity. Thank you so much. And please vote for me, Joe Perkins, number 311 on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we're going to move to Group 24. Judge Bandine, can you mention at least 2 strengths of your opponent and also give a closing?
Okay, so thank you so much for organizing this one more time, and for everybody who's out there listening to us in the middle of the lunch time Friday. I don't know my opponent. He seems to be a nice guy, but I will give him that it takes a lot of courage to put in and file against an incumbent when you don't really know much about that person. It takes some courage to do that. Not everybody can do that. But I'm humbly asking that you vote for me to keep me on the bench. I am experienced, I am fair, and I am dedicated. As to my dedication, I'm not only dedicated to my community, but I'm also dedicated to my job. And when I say my community, I'm talking about the one that I was born and raised in, but also the one that I have dedicated time to. I've gone to Wilkie D events, I've gone to CABA events, I've gone to all sorts of events. People in the community know exactly who I am because I have been involved. I was in private practices for 12 years, civil litigator. I handled class actions, complex commercial litigation, most notably a hate case that I took on pro bono where I got a child back to his dad. I love my job, and I hope that the voters vote to keep me in the position that I'm in because I am good at my job. Thank you so much. Christine Bandy, 322.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Spector.
Sure. Positive things about my opponent. We've never met, but I admire her dedication to public service. Like Judge Bandine just said, it's not easy getting up here and doing this, and it's a full-time job on top of all the other work that you have to do, and the professionalism with which she's run her campaign. So those are the 2 positive things. Again, my name is Sean Spector, running for County Court Judge, Group 24. I have a really well-rounded perspective of the legal process. I've worked in several different areas of law, represented a wide variety of clients, in-house, outside counsel, and I have the work ethic to do the job and that the job requires. And I'd really like the opportunity to rechannel and refocus my efforts into serving the residents of Miami-Dade County. Again, Sean Spector, I'm number 323 on the ballot. Thank you, CABA, so much for having us.
Thank you. And last but not least, we're going to move to Group 9. Judge Mansfield, can you mention 2 strengths of your opponent and also give a closing?
Wonderful. Once again, thank you again for the opportunity to be heard this afternoon. As for the strengths of my opponent, I've never met him, but he's got several strengths. Right off the top of my head, he appears to be very well educated, and he appears very dedicated to his family. As an Italian son, I can respect that because my family is very important to me as well. As for me, I go back to the fact that although I was not born and raised in Miami, I've adopted Miami as my community. I've been here for 20 years now, and I've been in public service the entire 20 years. I'm proud of what I achieved as an assistant state attorney. I'm proud of the courtroom I run as a judge. I run probably the most trial active courtroom in county court, arguably, with no question. I presided over 60 cases at county court. I tried over 90 cases as an assistant state attorney. I've got a depth of experience that every single day I draw upon to run the courtroom that I think I run, which is an efficient, fair, and quality courtroom where people feel like they are respected and heard. I've been endorsed by many, many different organizations, from the PBA, most of the unions, and I've been rated highly qualified by the Christian Family Coalition. I was endorsed yesterday by the Herald. It's always very gratifying when you get these endorsements, because it's basically somebody telling you they like you, or they like what you're doing, or they recognize you, and I appreciate that. So I appreciate the opportunity to be heard today, and I would appreciate your support on ballot on punch number 320, and thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you, Judge. And last but not least, Mr. Mirabal.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I would say 4 positive things about Judge Mansfield. Number 1, thank you for your 20 years of public service as a prosecutor. Also for running a very ethical, professional campaign. It's refreshing to have that. We've had a very, like I said, a very clean race, and also I would say he's been a gentleman during our campaign. Now to me, I've had 16 years of very vast legal experience. I've done, like I said, I've done everything. I've done from domestic violence to civil litigation. I've litigated here, I've litigated in Europe, I've litigated in South America. So I'm very, very comfortable with different judicial systems, and anything that I don't know, I can learn. And that's one thing that I'm very dedicated to. I also wanted to say I'm very proud of this organization. I'm proud of CABA. I'm proud of what you guys have done. I'm proud of the history that CABA has instilled in us. And I stand on the shoulders of some amazing Cuban-American lawyers who came before me, namely Judge Margarita Quiroz, Rogelio El Pino, who was a mentor of mine when I was very, very young. One of the ones who started in the path to become actually a lawyer. I wanted to become a doctor. And he's actually one of the ones at 15 years old. I started following him to the office, and he got me into CABA at a very young age. And CABA was the first volunteer organization I joined actually in law school. So I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of what you guys do and what you guys stand for. So with me, you're going to get a lot of experience. Diversity, and not just who I am, diversity also in what I do, diversity in my education, diversity in my law practice, and diversity in what I bring into the bench. So that's why I'm running. That's why I think I'm probably, I would say, a better candidate, fit. And so I ask for your support and for your vote. Thank you very much. Mike Mirabal.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much to all the judges. Just before we close up real quick, I was just informed that we wanted to take one more group picture. If Dax, you can switch it over to gallery view for us. And I'm going to count down to 3. Dax?
It's an individual thing. You just got it. It's good.
Gallery in the top right.
It's good, dude.
All right. Well, let's go ahead. It's everybody. 1, 2, 3. All right. We got, so just to be able to close now, first and foremost, I want to thank our sponsor, Mendez & Mendez Law Firm, for sponsoring our judicial forum. Unfortunately, this year could not be in person, but hopefully in the next round in 2 years, we'll be back at it. Well, for the judicial aspect of it with the judges, for the races, but also next year, hopefully we can all join in again and have this in person. I also wanted to thank again is Emma Denaro for the rocks. And again, we put it into the comments section where you'll be able to find there her website in case you want to go ahead and purchase your own rocks. She does, she can customize them for you. So thank you, Emma. I can't thank her anymore. It's incredible. She's a talented artist. I also wanted to mention to everyone is the CABA briefs has been published. Many of you guys have seen there. We have gone ahead and we profiled all the judges here from Miami-Dade, Palm Beach County, and Broward that provided us profiles and some great articles that are in there. Thank you to Diana Arteaga and her briefs committee. They did an incredible edition for this judicial edition. And then we have a couple of upcoming events we just wanted to advise everyone. Coming up August 12th, we have the Pandemic and Law series. It's practicing in the Family Court Division during COVID-19. It'll be hosted by Judges David Young, Judge Victoria Del Pino. On August 20th, we're having our August Historical Highlight Virtual Happy Hour. It's a great little event where we started off with with one of our restaurant supporters. They'll be creating a drink, and then we'll have a history session that'll be connected to either the drink or the event. If you guys have not participated, definitely it's something to come in, take a look at, and just to try to get us back together again. It's a little bit of fun networking. And last but not least, at the end of the month, we're going to have the racial and ethnic disparities in our criminal justice system. It's going to be, we're going to be hosting it together with the Wilkie D. Ferguson Bar Association and the ACLU. That'll be coming on, talking on this very timely and very important topic for everyone. So last week, I just want to thank everyone for coming out, the judges. Good luck on your campaigns. We have some time left, and I know it's enduring. I've gone to support other candidates in past at the polls, and I know that sun is bearing down on you. So I wish you all the best. And Francis, I don't know if you have anything last minute comments, but thank you very much again.
Thank you, Javi, and thank you to all the candidates and to all the Judicial Committee and all the attendees. We had at one point 86 people on, and I appreciate that. And lastly, the Judicial Forum session event was recorded. We will be making it available. I had several people asking me about that. So we will have that on the CABA website when we get it together. Thank you very much again for joining us. Have a wonderful day.
Great job.
Thank you very much, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.